Hey guys, Mr. Gardner here. I want to go over this review packet with you. So I'm going to be going through the problems, and then during our live session, we can talk about them and make sure that we're on the same page. So this first question says, your friend goes to the store and buys a soda for $1.50, a cookie for $1, and a bag of pretzels for $2.10. An additional 9% sales tax is added to the bill. What is the total cost? So when we're looking at this problem, we know that we have to find a percentage of some total and add it to that total, right? Because it's asking for a total cost. And we know if we buy 3 items, right, then to find out how much that was, we just add them together. So we'll do that first. So we have $1.50 plus $1 plus $2.10. So we get zeros. We get a 6 there. We bring our decimal down, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get $4.60. So we spent $4.60 at the store on all those items. Now we know that there's an additional 9% is added. So we know we have to add something to this. So we need to think about what question we're asking. So we need to know what is 9% of $4.60, right? And so we can think about our proportional relationship as is over of is percent over 100. So when we look at this, we have what is. So we don't know this number. So there's our x, 9%. So there's our percentage, and of 460. So there's our number there. So if we set that up, we have what is over of 460. So x over 460 equals 9 over 100. So we want to know what 9% is. So again, we have a little ditty we can do. If your number has a buddy, multiply. So this one has a buddy. If it's sitting by himself, divide. So we're going to do 4.60 times 9. 9 times 0 is 0. 9 times 6 is 54. Bring the 5 up. 9 times 4 is 36 with 5 is 41. We had 2 numbers behind the decimal, so we're going to come in 2 places. And we get 4140, and we have to divide that by 100. And again, if you remember, when you divide by 100, you can move the decimal as many zeros as we have. We have 2 decimals. So we'll go 1, 2 to there. That's our dividing by 100 step. Okay, so then we know that we had to add 0.414 to this total. But we also know money doesn't go to the 3rd decimal place, so we don't even have to worry about those 2. So we get a 1, we go 0 here and a 1 up top. And we get 501. So what is the total? It's B. It's $5.01. Let's look at number 2. Jane refurbishes old furniture and sells it for a profit. So profit means more than she spent on it. So your answer, to make sense, should be more than this number. Okay. After sanding and resurfacing, she hopes to sell it for 25% more than she purchased it. What would her profit after selling the bench? So really, if we're just looking for 25% of this number, then we're looking for what is 25% of 230. And that's really nice. We can just set up our proportion. What is, so x of 230 is equal to 25 over 100. And we know we multiply across and we divide by the number by itself. So we get 230 times 25. And 5 times 0 is 0, 15, carry the 1, 10, 11. Then we go to the next one, bring our 0 in, bring in another 0. 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4. So we go 0, 5, 7, 5. And again, we're dividing by 100, which is bringing this in 2 places. So 1, 2. We get 5750. So our answer is C. On the third one, Chris buys a new polo that was on sale for 45% off. He only paid $13. What was the original price? So remember, if it's a discount, he got that off. So what percentage did he pay? Right? So we want to know. So 100% is total, and he got 45% off. So that leaves with 55% is what he paid, because we want to find the original price. So then we're knowing that 13 is 55% of what? Because we don't know how much this is. So then if we're going to set it up, we have 13 is, we don't know, of but we know it's 55% of 100. Okay. So again, number has a buddy. So we multiply that. So we get 1,300. All right. And then we have to divide that by 55. So we're going to get 0 here. It doesn't go into 13 either, but it goes into 130 2 times. That gives us 110. We subtract and we get 0, 2, 0. Bring this down, and now we have 200. All right, so we got to look at that. So 55 goes into there. I would say what? This is 110, and we add another one on. We get 165. So probably 3 times. 165. Yeah, we do that math there, and we'll see that we borrow. We have 5, 3, and 0. Decimal. So far we have 23. Bring down a 0. Now we're trying to get to 350. So we can look, and if I'm just looking at my answers, I can see that 6 is here. So why don't we try 6? So 55 times 6. That's going to be what? 30. 6 times 5 is 30. So 330. That seems really close to that. So 6 gives me 330. And I'm down to 20. Bring down to 0 again. And I'm at that 200 number again. And what did we say 200 was? 23.63. So 3. And if we kept going, it's probably another big number. So 3 was 165. And we do that math, and we get 350 again. Bring down a 0. And we saw that it was 6. So this number is a 6, which means we round this one up. That's why you're going to get this number here with a 4 and not a 3 on the end, because we're rounding it up because money only goes to 2 decimal places. Okay. Also, on a multiple choice test, if you got to this point and you knew you were doing the math right and you got 23 here, this is the only answer that has 23. So this is the only answer that makes sense if you were doing the math, because it's not 28 and it's not these numbers. All right. Okay, again, this one, we're looking at a percentage. So she paid this much. She wants to know what 18% of it is. So again, we're just going to set up our proportion. It's what is. So is over 3550 equals 18 over 100. Again, we do our math. 3550 times 18. Okay, we have 2 decimal places right here. So we get a 0, 0 with a 4, 0 with a 4 again. 8 times 3 is 24, so it's 28. All right, we had a 0, and a 0, and a 5, and a 5, and a 3. Okay, we do the math. 0, 0, 9, 13, 6. All right, and we know that we're dividing by 100. Oh, we got to go in by 2 places. That's right there, because we had 2 decimals. And we're dividing by 100, so we're going to move it 2 more decimals. And we're going to see that she spent $6.39 on the tip. And we want to know how much she spent total, so we're going to add that. So total, we're going to add that to our 3550, so 6.39. We get a 9, we get an 8, bring down our decimal, 1, 1, 41.89. All right, and that should make sense. If you got to 639 and you saw that you hadn't moved the decimal by dividing by 100 yet, then that wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't give a $600 tip on a $35 bill. All right, so now let's look at these proportional relationships. Okay, and this is showing us we're going to be given a ratio, and then we want to see how we can use that to find the rate of change here. And so we can see if we go 2 hours and we went 400 feet, right, then we get 2 over 400, right? And then after 6 hours, he's at 700 feet. So we got 6 and 700. Okay, and we want to think about how these would work together. So let's make a table. So let's make this hours. And let's make this one feet. And we got 2, 4, and 6, 7. Right, so we can see that this goes up by 4 and this one goes up by 3. So we can see that we're going up 3 over 4. Okay, so what would that tell us? We got going up 3 feet every 300 feet every 4 hours. right? So we know that our rate of change is 300 feet every 4 hours because we always do the rise over the run. Okay, and so then we could just simplify this down. How many 4s go into 300? We want to get to 1, right? We want to get to our rate of 1 because it's per hour, our answers. So that's 1 hour. Okay, so we think about this. From 4 to 1, I have to divide by 4. So I'm going to divide the top by 4 also. And so I can see that, what is that going to be? No, it's going to be 75. So then that's going to give us C. All right, here we go now. We have a chef cooks 12 pounds of beef for 60 people and 18 pounds of beef for 90 people. Find the rate of change. So again, we can look at this a couple ways. So we can think, if I have 60 people and I'm using 12 pounds, right, then what could that be? So let's just look at it. So let's do people over pounds. And we know that people over pounds is 60 over 12. So what we want to do is we want to divide that. And so we're going to see that. Well, what we want to do is set up a relationship because we want to know how much the rate of change is, right? And so we want to know how much food there's going to be per person. And so we can see that when we look at this, that we could divide both by 12. And we would get 5 people for 1 pound of meat. So let's look if we can see that. 5 pounds of beef per person. Well, that's not what this says. 1 pound of beef per 6 people. That's not what this says. 6 pounds of beef per person. No. 1 pound of beef, right, per 5 people. So that's going to give us D. Again, this one's telling us we have money over hours. So we can see here we have 320 over 8 hours, which tells us that we're making $40 every 1 hour, right? Because if we're going to do this, we're dividing by 8. We're dividing by 8 to get there. So then we want to know how long it takes to earn this much. So if we're getting 40 every hour, then 1,120 divided by 40 is what we want to look at. So that's going to give us 0 times into 1, 0 times into 11, but into 112, we could probably go twice. It's going to give us 80. So we get a 2, we borrow, we get a 3, then we bring down our 0, 320, we know that that's 8. So then it's going to be 28 hours to make the money. Again, finding the rate of change. So we want to look at these changes here. So this goes by 30, and this one's changing by 2. And remember, we always want to do the second one, the rise over the run, right? So it's always this change in this value over the change in this value. So 2 over 30. So for this, it's going to be or 1/15. And again, we want to put that into miles. So 1 mile every 15 minutes is the rate of change. So we're going to use this table, and we're going to use this to answer questions 9 and 10. So the first thing we might want to do is we might just want to fill in the actual distances before we start. So we know that the scale is 3 centimeters is 15 feet. Okay, so we know it's 3 is 15 feet. So then what's 6 going to be in feet? Okay, so we know to get from 3 to 6, we times it by 2. So we're going to times that by 2 and get 30. This is going to be 30 feet. Okay, and 2 centimeters is going to be what? So if we know 3 is 15 again, and 2 is some value, well, this isn't an easy conversion. So then we'll do it the other way. 2 times 15 is 30, divided by 3 is 10. So this is going to be 10 feet. And again, we got the same ratio here. And again, this isn't going to be a really nice conversion. So we're going to just do the steps we know. So 9.5 times 15. So 15 times 9.5. We have 1 decimal. So 25 here. 5 times 1 is 5, and 2, 75. Put in our 0. 9 times 5 is going to be 45. Bring in the 4 up here. 9 times 1 is 9. With adding 4, it's 13. Add those up. And we have to bring our 1 decimal in, so we get 142.5 feet. Whoops, we got to divide that by 3, don't we? So we want to erase that. That's a whoops-a-daisy. It seemed like, see, that's how you can kind of see I looked at that and saw that 142 didn't make sense. That's not much farther than 9.5 is not much farther than 6, but my answer was way bigger. So that told me that there was a problem there, right? So now I need to go back and I need to divide it because that's my second part, divide by this number. So it doesn't go into 0. It goes into 14 4 times. That gives me 12. 2, bring the 2 down. All right, 22 is 7 times. 21, bring the subtract, bring down my 5. 3 goes into 15 5 times. Okay, so this is going to be 47.5. And now looking at this answer and this answer, that seems a lot more. This is 3 centimeters more. That's 15 more feet. And then a half, which maybe makes up for that little bit of extra there. Okay, so again, we want to use our relationship. All right, 5 times 15 is going to give us 75. We're going to divide that by 3. And I can just think about this as quarters. 3 quarters is 75 cents, right? Or we can just do the math. So that's 25 feet. So now that our table's filled out, it's much easier to answer the questions. So how far is it from the library to lunch? And that's this answer right here. We already did that. So we can see that it's 25 feet. Okay, now this one's asking us, what is the distance from math to the library? Well, see, we see here that we have to go from the math class, which is here. Okay, we go to the office, and then from the office to the nurse, so we need to add that together. All right, but we're trying to get to the library, so from the nurse, we have to go to the library, which is this distance. So we know that we have 30 plus 10 plus 47.5. 5 decimal, 7. 1 and 3 is 4, and 4 is 8. So 87.5 feet. So there's our answer A. Okay, let's look at this one. Next week, you're going to Sabino Canyon. On the map, you notice that 1.5 centimeters is 2 miles. If the trail is 9 centimeters, how far is it in real life? So we have centimeters over miles, right, is equal to 1.5 over 2. And we want to know what 9 centimeters, so we want to keep centimeters on top, is in down here. So we don't know this value. So again, we multiply. We get 18, and we need to divide by 1.5. So again, we just know the skills. We got to move this over. So then we have to take the decimal here and move it over, put in a 0, move this to the top. 15 0 times, goes into 18 once. So I'm going to subtract 15, get 3, bring down my 0. 15 goes into 30 twice. That's going to give me 12, and I want to use my units, miles. That's a long hike. All right, now we're going to talk about our angles. So we just need to remember which angles are equivalent to each other. We should be able to eyeball that too, but also just knowing our definitions. So we're looking at angles 2 and 6. If we think about our definitions, these are in the same position, but they're in different intersections. That's going to make them corresponding. Okay, if measure 1 is 60, then what is measure 4? Well, these are vertical angles, and we know vertical angles are congruent, so that's also going to be 60. All right. Again, what is the measure of angle X? So from this, we got to use a little bit of information that we know. We know this one's 90 because it's a right angle. We know that a straight line, so this is a straight line, and we know that's 129, so this has to be 180 minus 129. Okay, so 180 minus 129, borrow, and a 1, a 5, and a 0. So then we know that this little angle here is 51. And we know that in a triangle, all right, if we add that, that, and that, it equals 180. So let's add those up. So we get 90 plus 51. That gives us 141. And we know that this angle here has to add up to 180 when added to these ones. So we can do 180 minus 141. 10 minus 1 is 9. 7 minus 4 is 3. 0, 0. So that means x has to be 39 degrees. Good job, guys. We're working through this really well. Okay, name this triangle. So we got to look at our definitions and we got to look. Let's see. We want to think, are all three sides equal? Well, they don't have the same mark on them, so they're not all equal. So it's not going to be an equilateral, which isn't even a choice. Two sides aren't equal, so it's not isosceles. None of these are right angles, so it's none of those. They're not all acute angles, so it's none of these, so it has to be scalene. This side, and this side are all different. That's the definition of a scalene triangle. Which type of triangle has three congruent angles, right? That's going to be our equilateral. And what is the measure of each? Well, if you have three angles that are the same, and you know every triangle is 180, and you divide by 3, you get 0, 6, 18 is 0. 3 goes into 0, 0 times, so 60 degrees. Remember, our triangle theorem is that two sides added have to be greater than the third side. So to test it, we just add up and check. So 16 and 9, 25. 25 is more than 9, so that works. 9 and 9 is 18. 18 is more than 16, so that works. And since that's 9 and 9, so this one is a triangle, so it's not our answer. 3 plus 7 is 10, that's more than 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, that's more than 7. 7 plus 5 is 12, that's more than 3, so that is a triangle. 2 plus 2 is 4, that's more than 2. And we know that a triangle with 2, 2, 2 is equilateral, so that is a triangle. 7 plus 9, 16. 16 is not more than 20, so this one is not a triangle, right? You're going to get something that looks like that, and we're just not really going to have those two pieces touch, so you have no triangle there. All right. Number 18. So on these ones, we want to just remember our formulas here, right? We want to remember that area equals pi radius squared, and that circumference equals pi times the diameter. Then we also want to remember that diameter equals 2 radius, and that radius equals diameter divided by 2. So we can use any of these. We also want to know that pi is 3.14 in case we want to give our answers in a decimal instead of in pi form. All right, so the diameter of a Starbucks coffee is 3.3 inches. The small has a diameter of 2.6 inches. What's the difference in their circumferences? Well, if we know that one is 3.3 pi, right? Because that's what circumference is, pi times diameter. So there's our diameter. Okay, it's times pi. And then we have 2.6 pi. We can just subtract them. So what we end up getting here is that it's going to be, when we borrow, 0.7 pi. Okay, and this one isn't going to give us the answer in terms of pi, but we can use common sense as well as math. So if you want to do the math, it's going to be 3.14 times 0.7. And again, remembering that there's 3 numbers behind the decimal. So all these have 3 numbers behind them. So any of those answers are good. But then also remembering, we're multiplying 3.14 times something less than 1. So we should get a number smaller. This is the only number smaller than 3.14. Right? So none of these other numbers would even make sense for the problem. But we can do the math just to check. So 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 1 is 7 with the 2 is 9. Okay, and then 7 times 3 is 21. And we had 3 decimals, so we'll go into here, 2.198, 2.198. So again, if you want to do it mathematically, this would be the way to do it. Okay, but if you want to use common sense, if you got a number less than 1 times a number that is about 3, then your answer should be less than 3. And that's the only answer that's less than 3. So that's kind of a common sense approach to the problem. All right, so look at this next one. The picture is in over the words, but I think from what this is saying is what is the area of the shaded part? So I don't know how that happened, but I think we're looking for this shaded area. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to find the area of both circles and subtract them. So the radius of the white circle is 4 centimeters, and the radius of the gray circle is an additional 3 centimeters. So then we get this little one here equals 4, and if this is 3 more, then this whole one is 7. Okay, so we want to find what the area of the I don't know, I can't really tell which one it is. So we'll just find the area of both. So we know for the small, so let's make this area small, and then we'll make this the area of the larger circle. So it's pi times radius squared. So for the small one, it's 4 squared. And for this one, it's pi times 7 squared. So if we look at that, we get our equal sign here, not that one. We get 16 pi. And for this one, we get 49 pi. So if we're trying to look at that together, then we know we got to do 49 pi minus 16 pi. And that's going to give us what? 33 pi. All right, and again, if we're looking at this, we're multiplying 33 by 3. So this is the only answer that makes sense. Right? These answers don't make sense. They're all below 33, and we're not dividing that number. We're multiplying it. So this would be C. But again, if you wanted to check 3.14 times 33, and you're going to get 103.62. And you remember, we're going in 2 decimal places because there's 2 decimals. All right, last one is saying the distance around a carousel. So a carousel is circular. So the distance around, we're going to be doing the circumference. We're going around it. We're trying to find we know how far around it is. We're trying to find the radius, which is halfway across it. So we know that circumference is equal to 21.98. But we also know that circumference equals pi times the diameter. So we need to find diameter in order to find radius. So then we know that 21.98 is equal to 3.14 times diameter. So to solve for diameter, we divide this by 3.14, and this cancels. We divide this by 3.14, and we see what we end up getting is 2198 divided by 314. So remember, we had to move the decimal 2 places. And this is 0, 0, 0 because it doesn't go into those. And so we kind of have to guess and check. It's more than 5 times, but it's less than 10. So I'm going to try 7. So 314 times 7 should give you 8. 7 times 1 is 7. Oh, this is 28, so 2. 9, 21. So we get 2198. So then we know that D equals 7. But we also know that radius equals D divided by 2. So now we have to take 7 and divide it by 2. And that's 3 times. We get 6 and a 1. Put in a decimal. Bring down the 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And we get 3.5 yards as our answer.